Who run the world? Girls. We run this mother. Who run this mother? Girls. 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 Who run the world? 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 Girls.
Hey, bring it on, baby. All your friends, you're the ish, and I love that body. You wanna ball explicit? I swear you're good. I won't tell nobody. You gotta be a BFF. I wanna see that girl. It's all women invited. Hairdos and nails, that Louis Chanel all up in the party. Where them girls at? Where them girls at? Who run the state? Who run the summer? Who run the world? Who run the world? Where them girls at? Girls at? Girls at? Girls.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Hey, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, mister, just a little bit. I ain't gonna do you wrong while you're gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong 'cause I don't wanna. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Just a little bit, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm about to give you all my money, and all I'm asking in return, honey, to give me my propers when you get home. Yeah, baby, just a when you get home. Just a little bit, just a little bit. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, think F-T-C-T. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Good evening and welcome to the third annual Gentry Women in Tech Conference presented by one of our favorite places, 181 Fremont in San Francisco. I'm Diane Dwyer, your host for this evening. Thanks for joining us. Tonight's program is the fourth and final episode in a four-part series. In 2018 and 2019, Gentry held sold-out Women in Tech conferences in person. Well, we all know life has changed a little since then, so now we have this virtual format. And it does have its upsides, especially in terms of the reach of the conference. So far, more than 650 people have been able to participate, so that's great. And tonight, we have a great lineup. But first, I do want to have a heartfelt thank you to all of our sponsors for making this possible. Our presenting sponsor is Morgan Stanley. The gold sponsor is 181 Fremont. Our silver sponsors are Seiler LLP, Cooley, DeLeon Realty, and Harper School. And a big thank you to our in-kind sponsors as well, J. Lore Vineyards and Wines, Four Seasons, Silicon Valley, and Skin Spirit. And thank you to all of you for supporting this important forum. The theme of the Gentry Women in Tech Conference is really investing in future leaders, a key topic when it comes to building the tech companies of the future, right? So the women spotlighted tonight have all reached leadership positions and are particularly focused on the future of work and crafting and promoting diverse teams in their various companies. So on that note, with no further ado, first up, it's my pleasure to introduce two great women, Shelly Kapoor Collins and Jennifer Johnson. They'll be discussing the important topic of women investing in women, which we love. So Shelly, as many of you probably remember from our first episode, is wonderful. She's also a serial entrepreneur turned VC. She founded the Shatter Fund in 2017 to exclusively invest in high potential disruptive technology companies led by female entrepreneurs. And in May of this year, Governor Newsom enlisted Shelly to join the governor's Economic Development Entrepreneurs Task Force. I got it. Okay. Jennifer Johnson is president and CEO of Franklin Templeton, of course. She's responsible for the operation of all aspects of the business. Previously, she held the role of COO, overseeing the majority of investment management and support services. And in 2014, among the many awards, Jennifer was named one of 10 executives to Money Management's executive inaugural list of top women in asset management. And she was chosen by her peers as one of Ignite.com's most influential women in fund management. So these two women are sort of accomplished. All right, Shelly and Jennifer, you two take it away from here. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Diane. It is great to see you. And Jenny, welcome. It is awesome to see you here tonight. Thanks for being with us. Personally speaking, I know what a treat my participants are in for tonight to hear Jenny speak. And for me especially, it is a great honor to have this fireside chat with Jenny, as she is someone that I greatly admire and a role model for me. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jenny. Jenny, so I'd like to kick off by talking about the power of women investing in women. When there is a woman involved in the investment decision-making process, a female entrepreneur is 2.5 times more likely to receive the capital that she needs. Very close to home, you and I embody this statistic with Franklin Templeton leading the anchor investment into Shatter Fund. And you, of course, are an advisor to our firm, Shatter Fund, LLC. So with that backdrop, I'd love for you to tell us, it's a two-part question. First of all, why is it so important for women to invest in women? And then tell us about your personal focus to invest in female entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Well, I think, first of all, you know, this story, as an investor, right, you're always looking for the opportunities to get a better return over others, right? And I saw a statistic that said female entrepreneurs, companies have an IRR that's like 112% versus, 48%, right? So that's great statistic, right? Like right there, people should be running to this. So why is that not happening? Well, the good news is the reason, Franklin Templeton was focused on it. And Shelly, obviously, when I met you, you're fearless, and that's a great sign. Like you need somebody to be fearless because there's a lot of competition out there. But it reminded me of a story that I had read about the woman who came up with basically disposable diapers. So this was a woman whose father was an entrepreneur. He did a bunch of stuff, and she ended up working and then stayed home with her children, and it drove her nuts because the diaper would always spill out at night and stuff. And so she took her sewing machine out. This is 1948, and her shower curtain, and she made these diapers. And she went out to pitch because her father was an entrepreneur, so he had a network. So she went out to pitch to try to raise some money for this idea. She ultimately patented the diapers, and she really had a hard time raising money. And I thought about it, I'm like, well, because she's in 1948 pitching to all men who are thinking, I don't really understand the problem, right? And that's, we see that statistic where women say, something like, I think 53% of women say, when I go in, the VC didn't understand my market, right? If you can't relate to the clients in the market, you're not going to deploy capital. So, again, I look at the statistic of, I think it's 2.9% of VC money going to women entrepreneurs when we're 50% of the population. There's got to be great growth opportunity and return opportunity there. So as an investor, I like that.
1000%. But Jenny, the story that you told, I hadn't heard that before about the disposable diapers, and that, it does not surprise me that it takes a woman to fix a woman's issue, right? And that's why we need to have a hand in the solutions that are being designed for us, and where we are the number one consumers and the number one decision makers in our households. It makes sense that those decisions are coming from us. So thank you for that. My next question for you, Jenny, is, so look, Franklin it's well known. Franklin is a global brand. It's a global company. It sits in the heart of Silicon Valley. And right there where it is the hub, Silicon Valley is the innovation hub for the world. Just last fall, Franklin Templeton launched the FinTech Incubator and Lab in San Mateo. Could you please walk our participants tonight through your vision and your thought process in creating that FinTech incubator?
Well, I mean, I think for any incumbent company, I mean, we're in the fourth industrial revolution, so any incumbent company risks that you focus on just incrementally improving your business model and not disrupting your business model. And that's what, to be honest, that's the kind of thing that keeps me up all night. What is going to disrupt what we do? And there's a lot, I think, that can be disruptive. Mm-hmm. And so one way of ensuring that we're in the pipeline of just entrepreneurship and disruption is to have something to kind of give the entrepreneurs. And so we created this incubator. We had built a couple of additional buildings on our campus, so we had the space to ensure that we would see the entrepreneurs that come through. And so we funded so far 9 companies. We see about 20 companies a month. We've funded 9 companies, all of which have something to do with kind of disruption in our space, in the asset management space. So, one is a cold storage wallet for, say, tokenization of blockchain assets. There's some cybersecurity. There's some 2 women who are going to disrupt the art world, right? They have a view that they can disrupt the art world leveraging AI. So anyway, interestingly, out of the 9 companies, 2 of the companies have female founders. So that's a decent, statistic there. But again, for us, it's all about just ensuring that we are understanding where disruption is coming from.
And again, I come back to it takes a woman to understand a women's issue, right? So you've got this incubator, you've got it set up. If someone wanted to apply to that incubator, is there something, just like a quick tidbit that you can share with us on how we might access that incubator?
Yeah, so we partner with a company called EvoNexus. So you would go onto their website, and they're nonprofit, and they help us to kind of facilitate that pipeline and screen some things. So that would be the way to do it.
Very well. Thank you, Jenny. And I can only imagine the deal flow that's coming at you guys. So thank you for sharing that. So, my next question for you, Jenny, it's, something very near and dear to my heart. This whole conversation is, but this question in particular really drove why I founded the Shatter Fund back in 2017. And thanks to you, the vision is growing and getting better. So the economy is a women's issue. Without women as 100% participants in the innovation economy, there is no equality. Clearly, we are at an inflection point, and your focus, especially on investing in women and diverse founders, is so timely. Can you talk to us about what investors should be doing and thinking to foster a more inclusive economy?
So I think that conferences like this are so important. So, government programs are a great safety net, but they are not a trampoline to change your socioeconomic standing, right? If you can get capital deployed, if people can believe in you and deploy capital, then you're going to have an opportunity to move yourself up. And oh, by the way, here's the beauty about women. When women are involved in the management team, they have like 6 times the number of women that they hire when it's an all-female founded company. So, there's not only do you improve the economic status of that group, but you're actually bringing along many more. So from a social standpoint, and I think this is any minority group, we have to think about ways in which we can deploy capital to those groups. First of all, it's selfishly going to be a good investment because it is an underrepresented group, right? And so we know, and we've already seen the numbers with women, we know there's opportunity there. So I think that it's, and part of having to do that is actually having more women as venture capitalists, more women making the investment decision, because again, they're 2 times as likely to do it. And so, we're really focused on in continuing to expand that pipeline of investment women so that that capital can get out and be deployed. And, so that would be my answer.
No, I think that's great. So you're looking at building the pipeline from both ends, right? So from female investors to the female entrepreneurs. So you're saying it needs to be on both. And you are, this is a great segue into my next question, which is you're driving that diversity in asset management. And so I promised you I wouldn't gush, but I'm going to gush a little bit. So, just earlier this year, you became the CEO of Franklin Templeton, February 11th to be exact. Immediately, of course, you led the very successful acquisition of Legg Mason, which closed early, by the way, so I do know that, which has now put Franklin Templeton at 1.4 trillion AUM. Bravo, congratulations, you've done it. But right up there along your priority list, Jenny, and you've been busy, is the need to see that diversity and inclusion is a must-have, not just a nice-to-have in the finance industry. So tell us, what kind of changes you would like to see for women when it comes to D&I, and how you're leading the way and what you're doing at Franklin Templeton.
So a couple things. I mean, one is actually with the acquisition of Legg Mason, we hired Regina Curry as the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, and she's a direct report of mine. And that's just, again, to make sure that I'm thinking about it every day. This is something that you have to really focus on. So we should all acknowledge that we have unconscious bias. I always say, the easiest thing is to hire people who think like you, because you listen to them and you're like, they're so smart. They totally get it. That's a disaster, right? I mean, you really, just like as an investor, you want a diverse portfolio, don't you want a diverse investment team? And so, we're doing things around our hiring to ensure that we get more women in the pipeline in our hiring. We're doing things within the firm, our business resource group, to ensure that we're creating mentorships and programs to keep women in. We go all the way down to, the high school and even junior high girls who invest, supporting nonprofit programs that get women interested in investing. And, if you can bring them in, you can bring them through the pipeline. And this story resonated with me. It's actually a friend of mine who is African-American, and he wanted to open a restaurant in a very low income area outside of Sacramento where he grew up. And, it was one of those things where I invested in it personally because he's a friend of mine. He's killed it. Now, I was then thinking about it later, like, he would never have passed anybody's investment screen, right? This guy's never run a restaurant. He's enthusiastic. He works hard. He's like you, fearless. And oh, by the way, the neighborhood that he was setting it up in wasn't really your ideal neighborhood, right? So it resonated to me that if we are going to get capital deployed into these various minority underrepresented groups, you have to change your investment screen. And if you don't hire people who understand what you're trying to invest in, you're actually not going to get it right. So you have to have that lens, and you have to be more open to that lens. And if you can be open to that lens, I just think there's great return opportunities there.
I love that. So you have to diversify your investment screening process, right?
100%. And the team. If you don't have a diverse team, you are not going to you're not going to change the model, right? I always say, if you fish in the same pond, you catch the same fish. So if you have a diverse team, you're going to open up possibilities and opportunities, and just how they're thinking about investment opportunities. It's going to give you a competitive advantage over other funds trying to invest.
I couldn't have said it better. And in fact, I know we're coming up on our time, but what I'll say is that, there are stats to show that diverse teams have greater returns than an all-male team, which is exactly why we're here. So look, Jenny, thank you. In the last few seconds that we have, really quickly, you wear so many hats on a given day. Is there one thing in your routine on a daily basis that you do that keeps you grounded, that you can that you can share with us? Is it working?
Probably connecting with family. I would say that's and try to get a workout in.
The workouts matter. And any favorite quotes? Any quote that you want?
I would say my favorite is the Rudyard Kipling's poem, If. I think that it is the best advice. The whole thing is just filled with unbelievable advice. And so I give it to all my kids, and I read it if you haven't read it in a while. It's amazing.
Will do. I'll take that as an assignment. So thank you. Jenny, thank you for being here tonight. It was truly an honor. And Diane, back to you.
My pleasure.
Shelly, so fun to see you. And Jennifer, thanks for that advice. And I haven't read If in a long time, so I'll take that as homework as well. Sometimes you have to refresh yourself on that stuff, right? All right, so before we actually begin our panel, we do have a special treat for you. If you haven't seen it yet, our generous sponsors at 181 Fremont, one of San Francisco's most spectacular private residence buildings, is giving us another inside exclusive look at the new skyscraper. In fact, we have Matt Latucci from 181 Fremont to tell us more about it. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Diane. How are you?
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
And you, sir?
I'm doing really well tonight. We are thrilled to help support tonight's episode. The women in tonight's online are absolutely extraordinary. We feel, of course, that we are in the most extraordinary building here in San Francisco, if not the entire country. We have 55 boutique, unique homes, all 500 feet above the beautiful bay with unsurpassed views of San Francisco and the water, unique designs, beautiful world-class architecture, cutting-edge engineering. We've just opened up several new homes. We'd like to show you a preview of those tonight. So why don't you all take a look? Well, we hope that you all enjoy taking a look at some of the beautiful homes we have, beautiful artwork, beautiful furniture, all here for you to see in person. So we hope, and we invite you to come take a look as soon as you can in person. Thank you so much. Diane?
I highly recommend that as well, Matt, since I got a peek during episode 3. Thank you. What an incredible place, right? And the views are just especially today, it's got to be beautiful out there. Thanks, Matt. All right, thanks to 181 Fremont for their support as well. So next up, I'd like to introduce 3 outstanding women from Morgan Stanley, this evening's presenting sponsor. And I know some of these folks too. So please help me welcome Mary Beth Suhr, Senior Vice President and Financial Advisor. Hello, Mary Beth. We also have with us Catherine DuPuy, Vice President, International Client Advisor, Portfolio Manager, and Dedicated Equity Plan Specialist, and Danielle Aldama, Equity Plan Specialist, First VP, Financial Advisor, and Portfolio Management Director. Thank you for joining us, ladies. And Mary Beth, why don't you take it away for us?
Thank you, Diane. On behalf of Morgan Stanley Silicon Valley Complex and our Morgan Stanley Wealth Management Division, we're proud to once again support the GENTRY Women in Tech Conference. Morgan Stanley has been at the forefront of empowering women through various stages of their lives. And recently we launched our latest initiative, Women Without Limits, our commitment to the success of women and girls throughout communities across the country. Please visit morganstanley.com or follow us at #MS Women Without Limits to learn more about this exciting initiative. Now, it's such a pleasure to introduce the fascinating women on tonight's panel. Danielle, take it away.
Thank you, Mary Beth. It's so exciting for me, and I'm excited to introduce two speakers tonight. We have Kelly Graziadei. Kelly is a founder and general partner of F7 Ventures. Kelly has been an operator and leader in tech for over 20 years. She joined Facebook in 2010 and built Facebook's mid-market channel to over 1 billion with a B in revenue and 150 people across the US. She also led product marketing for Facebook's ad and commerce business, driving $15 billion in revenue and launching over 20 products globally. After Facebook, she was an EIR at Foundation Capital, angel investor, and F7 founding partner. Next, we have Joanna Lee Shevelenko. Joanna is also a founder and general partner at F7 Ventures. She has been an operator and leader in tech since 2006 when she joined Facebook as one of the first 100 employees. Wow. She built multiple teams from 0 to 1, including content moderation, site integrity, and user insights. After Facebook, Joanna was an EIR at Social Capital, the COO at Premise Data, and COO of Atrium. That's a lot of acronyms. She is also a board director at M Pharma and F7 founding partner. Over to you, Catherine.
Thanks, Danielle. In addition to Joanna and Kelly from F7 Ventures, we have 3 of the hardworking female founders that they have invested in with us tonight, including Lindsay Beck. Lindsay is co-founder and co-CEO of NPX, where she is leading the charge to transform the way impact is financed and in the nonprofit sector with her co-founder and co-CEO, Katarina Schwab. Prior to NPX, Lindsay earned her MBA at Wharton, where she explored the disconnect between funding and impact in the nonprofit sector. Before Wharton, Lindsay founded Fertile Hope, a nonprofit organization that addressed the reproductive needs of young adult cancer patients in the US. And Elizabeth E.C. Caley, co-founder and co-CEO of Poppy, the world's first genomic health protection network. Prior to Poppy, E.C. was the COO of Meta, the machine learning company acquired by Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Over the last 20 years, she's held executive roles at global software companies such as Microsoft, Hummingbird or OpenText, and FirmX. We're excited to have you. Over to you, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Catherine. Our next panelist is Christelle Rehaut, founder and CEO of CODI. Christelle graduated from UC Berkeley with a master's degree in Master City and Urban Planning. She went on to become a Schmidt-MacArthur Fellow on the Circular Economy in London. She's focused on the future of work, and her startup, CODI, is focused on home-based co-working opportunities and solutions. Back to you, Diane.
All right, thank you so much, Mary Beth, and what a lineup we have. This is going to be great. We're going to get through everybody and get to hear some great stuff along the way as well. So we're going to dive in right away with Joanna and Kelly. I'd like to start with you two. Tell us, Kelly, first, how F7 started.
Absolutely. Well, it's fun to be chatting now because it was essentially this time 2 years ago that F7 was born. We had all come together. The 7 of us had worked together at Facebook, as mentioned, some of us as early as 2006. And one of us is still there. But with that, we had lived and led just this incredible growth during our time at Facebook. And there were so many valuable learnings from both the successes and some failures. And so with that, we wanted to find a way to translate what felt like this once in a lifetime operating experience and translate that to help early stage founders. Also, some of us were at a point in our lives we were starting to invest, some as angel investors, others as institutional investors. And as we dove deeper into that world, we also learned some of the imbalance that we've been talking about. And Jenny mentioned some of the stats, but ultimately that 2.8% of overall venture funding goes to female founders. Those numbers are even more dismal for other underrepresented groups. So 1.8% for Latinx, 1% for Black, and less than 1% for LGBTQ. And so we felt that if we could come together, we could begin to help change those numbers. And so we pooled our own capital to begin investing in early stage founders, and with the goal to get more women on cap tables and also to invest in underrepresented founders.
Love that concept and love that that's where you put your energy in. All right, Joanna. So when you're thinking about these founders, what are you looking for? What are some of the key traits you look for?
Yeah, so we tend to have 4 table stakes criteria when we look at founders, which are the first one is founder superpower. So we define this as the founder being top 1% at his craft. And so whether that's someone who is excellent at leading or they're a world-renowned virologist, we want to find the people who are in that top 1%. EC, who is here from Poppy, is an example of this. She's a world-class operator and leader. The second thing we look for is a founder that has lived and breathed a customer problem. So we likely won't invest in someone who has researched something and then decided to start a company, but rather someone who actually experienced the problem firsthand or has spoken to hundreds and hundreds of users. Lindsay, who is here with us today, sold her nonprofit Fertile Hope to the Lance Armstrong Foundation and has firsthand experience with the challenges of nonprofit funding, which gives her this, unique advantage because she's actually lived and breathed the problem building her company, NPX. The third thing we look for is early user product obsession. And so, we ask ourselves, have they built something that has this early, almost cult-like following? Even if it hasn't scaled yet, are the current users so engaged that they'd be devastated without the product? And then the last thing we look for is what we call a unique insight into a big market. Has the founder discovered a unique way to get into a gigantic market? Christelle building CODI is a great example of this. Her market is the future of work and remote work, and it's a gigantic market, and she found a unique wedge in building a marketplace for it.
And the timing's pretty good on that right now too, as well.
Absolutely,
Right,
yes.
Absolutely. All right, Joanna. And Lindsay, Joanna was talking about that. So what's your relationship, the company NPX and F7?
So F7 funded us in our Series A, and they really came in at a critical time in our growth trajectory. They funded us after a successful beta, and that funding allowed us to build a team and start to scale and really go from where we were to 10x growth over the course of about 18 months. And in addition to the funding that they provided, it's this amazing network of these 7 women who we go to for everything, hiring questions, strategy questions, even just how to juggle it all questions as women in the field. And so their relationship to us has been incredibly special.
What a resource, absolutely, because that can be some of the hardest stuff, right? When you hit a roadblock, and who do you talk to and who do you ask? Love that they're available like that. That's such a female-led thing too, isn't it? So EC, how about your company Poppy? We're hearing a lot about it, and you. Sounds like it's at this intersection between healthcare and tech. Where is it right now?
Thanks for asking, Diane. We're at intersection of a lot of different things. We started Poppy last fall, and our mission was simply to help the world stay healthier together. We've gotten this crash course over the last 9 months or 6 to 8 months that, you know, our health are dependent on each other. And our goal back then when we started, help the world stay healthier together by making the invisible and making the invisible visible. We share our spaces, our homes, our workplaces, where we learn, where we shop, with all these 1,000 invisible viruses, bacteria, molds, pests, all the things that we don't want to think about on a regular basis. And then when COVID hit a few months after we started the company, we knew we needed to speed up and to find the right investors like Kelly and F7, and to move even more quickly so that we could build a way to help people get back to offices and working together with more confidence by continuously monitoring spaces for COVID virus, other pathogens that can affect our health.
Again, pivoting there, right? Seeing an opportunity in this situation, and you were in the right place, it sounds like, to do that. That's pretty amazing. All right, so Christelle, we're talking about all COVID, and your company is looking at the future of work and remote work. Where's the crystal ball? Where do you see it?
Well, I think 2020 showed us that remote work has exploded and it's not going to slow down. I think it's going to just keep accelerating in 2021. Just this week, Microsoft and Dropbox announced that they're going fully remote, which is huge. It's hundreds of thousands of employees. Today, 50% of US workers are work from home professionals. And there's been a lot of stats showing that 60 to 80% of those want to stay remote. Now, where CODI comes in is that remote work doesn't need to be work from home only. Working from home is very challenging for some people. You know, people need social interactions, change of scenery, escape the kids or the roommates, and have a clear work-life separation. And so CODI is the first company to offer access to daytime workspaces in private homes, giving people the opportunity to walk to work in their own neighborhoods.
That's fantastic. And that creates income generation, I assume, in some cases, depending on what the agreement is or whether they're working together. Love that, and love sort of using all these spaces that are wasted so much of the time, right? So Kelly, with all of this and your advice to these entrepreneurs as well, any thoughts on what sort of best piece of advice you ever received along the way?
Yes, it's and there's a piece of advice I think about often. It's pretty simple, but someone said this to me once, and it's that all advice is autobiographical. And I share that because I think people will have a lot of opinions about your own life and your own choices. And it's fine to listen to that and take that in, but it's equally as important to really listen to yourself and to take the time to pause and reflect and pay attention to the things you really care about, to the things that you're passionate about. Ultimately, I think you can learn a lot paying attention to that. I believe like really focusing on what you're passionate about is when you're able to shine and do great things. You can learn a lot of things along the way, but you can't manufacture passion.
And finding that passion can be hard, right? I mean, sometimes I'm like, how do you explain what that is to a 20-year-old?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, again, it's pausing and just noticing, like, when are you excited about something? But you really do have to build in that reflection time. I feel like I didn't do that all through high school or college. It was really after that where someone said this to me, and I started on a weekly basis paying attention to when I was excited about something and when I was like, oh, I don't like this. And you might be good at something that you don't like.
Yeah, interesting. I like that idea of sort of recognizing how you're responding to your environment and your day-to-day life. All right, and on that same note, Joanna, a little career advice from you. Beyond your career at Facebook, F7, you've been involved in a number of startups along the way. And what advice, if you could go back and give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would you say to yourself?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I actually think about this a lot. What I keep coming back to is really making every opportunity a learning opportunity and just being really curious. So don't waste anything, even if it's a lucky break, don't waste it. If it's, just part of your daily life, don't waste the opportunity to learn. Part of my job at Facebook early on was customer support, right? So I could either take that responsibility at face value and answer emails with a script, or see that as a data trove of information to learn about our users and know more about them than anyone else. And in that in that instance, in that decision, I did the latter at that time in my life, and it ended up being really powerful. It turned that role into, a user insights team and a content moderation team and a site integrity team, which was really powerful. And it was simply because I was curious about our users. So I would tell my pre-20-year-old self to take that same approach with everything else that I did. When you're 20, you're in school. So instead of doodling in class, maybe paying attention and being curious about the subject matter and diving deeper into it. But really it's, being curious about things that aren't necessarily my job, because I think that culmination of knowledge is what will allow you to have diversity in thought as you make decisions in your professional life.
And reframing that concept of just sort of the customer service, right? Of, the pants don't fit or whatever it is, literally, and sort of thinking, how can I learn from this? I think that's an interesting way of finding opportunities and things that don't look like they may have as much opportunity as you wished. All right, so now to our entrepreneurs, Lindsay, EC, and Christelle. You're in the trenches right now with your startups. We have a lot of high school and college age students watching tonight. Maybe if each of you could offer a lesson learned so far in your career, something you wish you had known maybe before launching your last startup. And Lindsay, let's start with you.
Okay, sure. I also think about this a lot. And I think one of the things that took me the longest to learn is that the smartest people in the room ask the most questions, not the opposite. And not to be afraid of what you don't know, and not to be afraid to speak up and ask questions, especially when you're maybe the only woman or the only person who looks like you or sounds like you in the room, and everyone seems to have this other language or this other knowledge. Not to be afraid of the beginner's mind, bringing different experience and asking questions, having things ready to say, like, tell me more. Can you explain that a little more? Can you say more about that? To really learn and to expose when other people don't really know what they're talking about either. And you'll find out you all can learn together, but really not to be afraid or paralyzed by what you don't know, and that to really speak up and ask questions.
It is so intimidating when you walk into a new industry, right? And they're using their lingo and you have no idea what they're talking about. And how refreshing it is when somebody says, what is that? Rather than trying to pretend like they know. EC, how about you?
I think I'd actually build on a lot of the themes that have been brought up tonight. So building on Kelly's theme, after taking the time to reflect on what I like and what I don't like, it's about being direct with what you want more often. And earlier in my career, I was the person in school who followed the program that was sort of given to me, never asked for an extension. And I found out way too late that my friend designed his university program, the exact one that he wanted, by going to talk to the head of the department. So he made a program of math and philosophy and combined them together. And I would have loved to have done that. It took me too long to ask for a promotion. It took me too long as a manager, which I became a manager really early on in my career. I was too worried for too long about hurting people's feelings versus giving them direct feedback. So for me, it's, I often worry about or think about the amount of time that I've wasted by just not being direct. When you combine directness with empathy, which is a natural strength of mine, then you can get a lot farther, a lot faster.
And it's so hard, right? With women, sometimes we get judged on being direct as well, unfairly. So it's that concept of combining it with empathy is interesting. Everybody needs to do it, but sometimes we're judged a little bit more and have to do more of that. And Christelle, how about you?
Yeah, well, I would say whatever your idea is, no matter how crazy it may seem, be sure that you can find support. And even in the places where you don't expect that support to happen. If you believe in what you're doing and if you believe you're providing value to the world, I do believe that anyone can find support for bringing the idea to life. And don't get discouraged if when pitching your idea to your parents or to your best friends, they don't get it. I created the company way before COVID, like 2 years ago, and people really didn't get it too much. I had issues working from home And I didn't want to commute downtown and pay for a co-working space. And to me, it made total sense to work at other people's homes because that was just ideal. Most people thought I was crazy. So I would say just fight for it, go for it. If you believe in what you're doing, you can find support.
And you're not crazy. And the sun is shining there. It's like the light is on you, Christelle. So that's fun.
I know, I can't.
All right. Thank you, ladies, so much. I wish we had another hour to continue this conversation because some really great advice there that is beyond sort of what you hear traditionally. And I really thinking about sort of realizing what makes you tick. And what sometimes you don't even realize, right? You're somewhere and you're happy and you don't even exactly know why, and recognizing that and seeing what in that environment is making that happen. So thank you so much for being here tonight. All of our guests have been amazing throughout all 4 episodes. And a huge thank you to our audience for watching and participating. In case you missed any of these episodes in the series, feel free to log on to gentrymagazine.com, or you can find us on YouTube at Gentry Women in Tech Conference, episodes 1, 2, and 3, and 4 will be there soon. And for a final word, because we can't let it go without seeing, you know, our chief gal, our Gentry Women in Tech Conference producer and wonderful human being, Stephanie Lingle-Beasley. Stephanie, I will let you have the last words.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Diane. It's been such a pleasure to see all of these incredible women over all 4 episodes. They have been beyond fascinating. Everybody always asks at Gentry Magazine, you know, how do you find the stories? You know, do you ever run out? No, the answer is absolutely not. In Silicon Valley, we have some of the most dynamic, incredible people on the planet. And I think this whole series has been just emblematic of that. So I want to thank all of the women for participating. Thank you to our audience, and just thank you to a few wonderful people behind the scenes who really made this happen. Seiler LLP, the team at 181 Fremont, including Terry Tiffany, Matt Latucci, Leo Medeiros, Tom Gaspar, and Carmen Lagarda. Just couldn't do it without all of you. I want to thank the team from Morgan Stanley, J-Lore Vineyards, 4 Seasons, Cooley LLP, DeLeon Realty, Harker School, and Skin Spirit. None of this could have happened without this team effort. And a big thank you, huge hug and shout out to the entire core team at Gentry, from Sarah Shaw and Brenda Beck to Jennifer Pardini, Corey Cook, Collier Granberry, Noreen Sheehan, Marilyn Callens, Carolyn Schutz. All of you poured your hearts and souls into making this happen. I can't thank you enough. Good night, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.